Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? It's your boy Jesimein Gaming, and here I am with the venting video for you guys on what I personally feel the new meta is going to be like after this underground update. Honestly, as far as the tanktition problem that everybody's talking about, that the sticky builds are insane and that they're basically god mode and that they're totally unbalanced, and I hear you guys on that, but I'm sorry to tell you that not much is going to change as far as taking out us skill builds. And what I mean by that is these new gear sets, as they are pretty good in their own ways. Don't get me wrong, there's some dope buffs on all of these, but don't be too confident in the fact that you're gonna be able to just drop a skill build now because you have different options. As far as the tanktition build goes, you gotta understand this game that they're trying to mold the commitment factor into the dark zone and into people's builds. And what I mean by that is they want you to formulate your playstyle and your certain role through your gear sets. For example, they nerfed or buffed, however you want to think of it. They made strikers 5-piece and they made sentries 5-piece because they want you, if you want that powerful buff, which it was a powerful buff for a 3-piece and for a 2-piece. If you want that super powerful buff, you have to commit to it by getting rid of 5 of your gear slots. And you don't have final measure if you're running striker. You can't have final measure if you're running sentries. So you're going to get sticky bombed because you're going to be able to dish out that damage, especially with these new subs that are come out with these new weapons that are hitting really hard. Plus they have critical hit damage now instead of chance, which isn't really that big of a change, which people are really worried about. But if you think about it, with the full pulse, you basically have the same thing, but with a new additional 40% critical hit damage on top of it. So you gotta weigh all these out, understand how hard you're gonna be hitting if you commit to DPS now, which is good for the DPS people because they didn't have that many options against skill builds because we were kind of invulnerable to everything. So look out for that. Look out for a lot more DPS builds being effective overall because they hit really hard. Now, one thing I need to address is you guys know me and you see my gameplay. If you watch my streams, you know how much I hate shock turrets. And I always say nerf. But when I stopped and after seeing my gameplay, after seeing other people's gameplay, after understanding what the meta's become, I understand why they haven't nerfed shock turrets. And a lot of shock turret haters are going to hate this because I hate shock turrets. But this is a reality. Shock turrets are quote unquote OP to everybody and broken. To an extent, they are broken as far as animation. But I think, honestly, after thinking about it 100%, they are as is fair against skill builds. Against other players, it's totally broken. I understand it's stupid. But against skill builds, I think that's the only option a DPS player really has against a skill build. So it makes sense that the developers don't nerf it. Because if they nerf that, they kind of give skill builds another open advantage of something they don't have to worry about and go around and still sticky people. So if you wonder why people haven't took it too seriously that they haven't nerfed shock turrets, it's kind of because it levels the playing field out against a skill build. Against other players who run DPS, that's the DPS 2 DPS players fight each other and they go shock turret, whatever, cool. That's what's gonna happen anyways. It's stupid, you get shocked, you get melted, cool, whatever. End of story. We know that's the reality of the division and the dark zone. It is how it is. But if they were to remove that factor, they would have to nerf sticky bombs, and I don't want them to do that because they already nerfed sticky bombs with final measure. They gave players an option to protect themselves from the sticky bomb with final measure, and if they chose not to, that's kind of their bad, and they get blown up. But people are asking me okay, do you think that they should just take off final measure or nerf the final measure? Honestly, if you ask me, yes, I think they should nerf final measure, and what I mean by saying I think is because 50% basically makes sticky bombs useless against final measure, and there should be no build or gear set that makes anything useless. I think it should still take a chunk of your health off that the other players on my team can finish you off or whatnot, even if you're protecting yourself, because I can't protect myself from the shock turret. Even if you have final measure on, you're still getting shocked and you're still going to sit there for this. Whatever the amount of time is, you can't defend against that. And the shock turret is nonstop. It doesn't matter if you cooldown, because while it's down, it's on cooldown. Nobody's going to spend the time to sit there and shoot it if you're a skill build because you hit with beanbags because you have no firearm. So it's it's basically there's no counter for a shock turret as is. And it's really hard to get shock resistance, period, So, it's just a very, very bad combination. But one thing I can say is the developers did a fantastic job on giving DPS players more options now. Now they don't necessarily have to commit to electronics to have to get a high pulse in order to do damage. There's a lot of other buffs that are going to be able to help DPS players take on skill builds and tacticians and pulse builds, whatever. They're going to be able to handle it in a way that isn't M1A, AUG, Vector, Shock Turret, Sentries, Strikers, Savage, or Reckless. Like that little group of overused items. Like they don't want that. They want people to be able to branch out and use all the gear sets and mix them up. That's why they even gave you different buffs on different number of gear sets. That's why they didn't make it, oh, you get one buff for the entire gear set. No, they made it so, okay, let's give the players a choice and a voice and find their own way to make their certain signature build based off their playstyle. And let's give them, an initiative to do that. Let's give them gear sets that work with other gear sets that makes it an incredible broken build, like custom build that works for you. And I think that's how the game should be played. I think that's how the game's going to live if they give us more options like that, other than forcing people to either choose between Striker, Sentry, or Tactician. It's like the rivals. It's like Goku would be, I guess, the DPS, the good guy, and then Vegeta would be the tacticians or whatever. However you want to look at that. Those are the rival build. It's literally skill build versus Striker Sentry build. That's it. That's like the whole game. And I don't think the developers like that. So what they did is they eliminated the Vector and the AUG as far as the only go-to sub by taking 10% damage off, which was smart because a lot of people, that's all they use, and that's boring. Yes, it sucks. You spent all your time crafting in order to get your God roll AUG, your God roll Vector. Yes, it kind of took your time out, but you understand, it doesn't change the entire game if they make a small change to just 2 sets of weapons. Okay? You still have your weapon. It still has its talent, and it still will have its critical hit chance. So it's its own special weapon just because it doesn't transfer to the damage. So you can go between the two. And it doesn't even matter because there's I guess there's a new level of weapons. Like I don't know if it's 228. I don't know what the actual number is. But there's another class of weapons as far as gear score that's going to hit way harder anyway. So those who are crying about ditching their old weapons, they're going to have to move on anyways. It's the whole point of the game. It's out with the old, in with the new. So if you're worried about having to ditch your gear, you're going to ditch it anyways. You're going to migrate piece by piece by piece and build an entire new build for the next whole open meta until the next update. And that's how it should be. That's what keeps the game fun. If you're running around with the same stuff you've been running around since day one, that's boring. That's stale. So now there's going to be so many new weapons and so many new talents and stuff brought into the game that it gives a whole new choice range, And I think that's where the game needs to go. And because yes, I see a lot more sticky builds. Like ever since I posted my first sticky montage, I saw a surplus in sticky builds because it worked. And why not drop teams? Who doesn't want to run around basically with unlimited health and just blow up people? Like it's fun. Yes, people say it's broken, it takes no skill, but you have to understand the whole mindset behind the sticky was literally built survive and blow up. With a DPS build, you want to melt. We can't melt as skill builds. So we give that up in order to blow you up. But now you have an option, which is final measure, or which is like the blind set. Use your flashbangs, stop a sticky bomb from shooting a sticky or healing, and you capitalize on that. Burn them with the reclaimer or the firecrest. There's different things that you can counter with. You have a shock turret that has remained untouched since day one, and everybody's been talking about how broken it is from day one, but it's untouched for a reason. If you ask my personal opinion, I believe they purposely are leaving the animation broke on the shock turret just as like a precaution to make sure that skill builds don't get too far ahead of the other builds in the long run. And I think that's the smartest route to take, because if they take the shock turret out the game or they nerf something that is particularly a skill build killer, as far as like if they nerf the flash or the disrupt resistance time or whatever, that will cause so much problems and so many people to say, why am I even trying in a server full of manhunts skill builds if I can't even touch them? I'm going to get sticky bombed, or I'm going to get or I'm gonna get shock turret. It's just a lot of bad things that go into that. So what they did is they made it a more level playing field versus just ruining sticky builds, because we only have so many skills to work with as a skill build. The turrets suck other than the shock turret. The secret mine's trash. The riot shield nobody's gonna use, and it's not viable anyways. There's something, you see what I'm saying, that they don't have any other skills to work with, so they're not gonna destroy the sticky bomb as is. So what they do is they add stuff to counteract that, so it gives you a choice to defend yourself against a sticky bomb, which is fair. If you choose not to defend, you're gonna get blown up, just like glass cannons choose to give up their health. And if they get melted by a person rocking 4-piece sentry with a shotgun with 2 shots, they're bad because they did not prepare for that situation. And there's always a weakness with every build. For skill builds, it's flashbangs. For DPS people, it's fighting them until their med kits run out. They can't heal themselves properly. And that's how you keep the game going when every build has a counter in some form. So if you ask my opinion as far as Tancticians, I still believe Tanctician will be the top build until they release a DPS build that's committed to dropping people like ASAP. But I still think the game is more fair now because you have choices, and the game's going to be fun because people are going to be experimenting with the new builds, and there's going to be a lot of people like me sticky bombing people because now final measure is getting taken off. So be on the lookout for that. And if you guys have any questions on like certain builds or like certain buffs coming in and you want my opinion on it, feel free to leave them in the comments, man. I want to be able to, be a personality for you guys and get to know you guys on like a personal basis, since you guys been rocking with me since day one. I'm gonna try to do more videos like this, just talking to you guys behind some random gameplay, just so it's like chilling out, man, you know what I'm saying? So this has been real. It's your boy Jesimein. I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay, and I hope to see you guys in the next update. I'm gonna have a lot of videos out coming for that, so stay tuned. I'll catch y'all. Peace.